back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
And we're back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. And joining us in the studio today from the BC Seniors Living Association is board member Alison Howard, along with nutrition and active lifestyle expert Rob Huppee. So continuing our conversation about choosing a retirement community or the right retirement community, let me hear your thoughts on the qualities involved with that community and how to find the right one. Like businesses who have mission statements, it's important to choose a community that really stands for something, don't you think?
Absolutely, and that goes back to what we were talking about values. So, we have in non-secular communities, we have communities that are part of large chains, we have small independent family-run businesses, we have ones that are faith-based. There's so many different structures of our retirement communities and our members associates that you really can find exactly what your heart desires in a community based on your values.
So you get to ask a lot of questions.
Please ask a lot of questions.
Like asking a long-term employee at one of the communities what it is that they like about working there. Maybe it might give you a little bit of background or why they've been there for such a long time. Asking those questions of residents when you go in. You can do like a short stay, can't you?
You can, and those are all really good points. Pull a team member aside and ask them what it's like to work there. Happy residents come from happy team members, and happy team members come from happy residents. Sit down and have lunch. Ask to come for lunch, and don't sit with the gal who's showing you around or the gentleman who's showing you around. Sit with a resident and find out their take on it. And you want to know what isn't working too, because no community is perfect. You don't want surprises when you move in. The residents will be very forthcoming with you, and see if there is that thread of community going through that building. Generally speaking, you will find that there's a strong thread of community. Is it a community that speaks to you?
Rob, any tips on questions we should ask when we're searching for the right fit when it comes to food and nutrition and exercise?
Certainly, you can ask. You could ask to see a menu. That's a good start. Again, you'll likely get cycle menus that take into account seasons, that take into account what's available throughout the year. But that's important to find out how the menu is cycled, but more importantly is and we get back to the values, but what is the company's mission in terms of how it wants to deliver nutrition. So there's the fine dining part, the fine dining aspect, which is very important in how you dine. But then it's the substance behind it is what is your mandate for food? Are you trying to ensure that it stays at a certain level, doesn't go beyond a certain level for sodium and saturated fats and trans fats? Is it take into account concentrated sugars, added sugars? What about protein? Is that distributed properly through? Is there a lot of plant-based proteins added to the diet because of the value of that? And taking, you can actually take it a step further in terms of, are we taking advantage of the foods that have a tendency to be high in phytochemical contents? This is just using the tried and true foods that we use, like cruciferous vegetables, like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale. It's all big and fresh fruits and berries and so on.
I have a family member that would say, I don't want curry and I don't want kale and I don't care about any of those new foods. I just want simple food. I want food that I can eat. And I keep saying, well, what is food that you can eat? What do you like? Plain. I want plain and simple food, no sauce.
Well, that's fine. You can always request sauce on the side. Yeah. But it's the plain and simple foods that really are. We're just talking about whole foods, a varieties whole foods
that
really
are nutritionally balanced.
Nutritionally balanced. That's what provides a solid diet. And over time, it's just this. If every day you're doing a pretty good job at having these wide variety of foods, then you're ensuring that you're maximizing the amount of nutrients that you need to get. It's where people, when they're at home eating just single foods, a few
tea and toast, frozen pizza.
You're surviving, but you can run into nutritional deficiencies quite easily, and you can run into all sorts of problems as far as if you're trying to manage chronic diseases. If you have high blood pressure and you're eating salty crackers and Campbell's beef stew,
yeah,
it's a problem. So you want to ask the right questions at a community about diet. Say, what is your take on how you provide food here?
How are you going to cater to my needs?
How are you going to cater to my needs? And also they can say things like, you'll see residents say, I have celiac disease. How's that? Which is a gluten. They can't have gluten. They have a true celiac problem.
Or I have wheat allergies,
or something like that.
High blood pressure.
Or vegetarian. That's new in our communities now too.
Or I'm a diabetic.
And having said all that, it doesn't mean that we take away the fish and chips and bangers and mash. That'll still be on there, but there's always an alternative.
Yeah.
So if you don't want the fish and chips, you can have the poached salmon and Asian greens or whatever it is. So there's always a choice is huge too.
And we don't have fish and chips every Friday night like we did in my family.
That's how we grew up.
It's how we grew up, right?
Fish stick Fridays.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we have them once in a while.
Well, I'm so glad that you talk about all the food options and the food choices and the catering to the menus, because food is such an important part of making that decision to move to a retirement community. It's a big part of our lives.
It's a huge part. And I think for a lot of folks, it's when they come in, at least, it's the most important part. They're saying, well, what's the food like?
Sure. First question, probably.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's where a lot of community starts to develop, too, is around those dining room tables.
Sure does, yeah.
They spend a lot of time there, and that's where they generally make their first connections with other community members, other residents.
Yeah,
so,
you bet.
Okay, so just remind us again about the importance of a seal of approval when we're going shopping to search for an active retirement community, a new home for the senior and loved one in our life.
So BCSLA has the seal of approval, which is a rigorous measure of every community who goes through this process, their ability to provide safe and secure services that meet a high standard of care and both government standards and then, of course, even further standards through the British Columbia Senior Living Association. We're self-regulating, and as a result, we do ensure very, very high standards. So look for the seal. When you're looking for a community, look for the seal of approval, and you'll know that you're choosing a community that's tried, tested, and true, and has met or exceeded those standards.
This could be a tough question, but is there government funding in independent living residence?
There is some. There is, well, not independent living, but in some assisted living. And in some memory care, long-term care, there is some government-funded communities, and those communities are also members of BCSLA, so... Yeah, it is there.
And Rob, a final question for you is if I go into a retirement community and I really I'm physically active, I go hiking, I am the group leader in fitness. Can I get personal training in a seniors living community?
Absolutely, yeah. Many communities have this personal training option, and we're able to recognize when someone has, if they're pole vaulting seniors, as has been described before, like they're really active, we can provide them with the right tools in order to get the kind of training that they need. And often we'll ask those folks too to come in and be mentors and leaders in terms of new recruits. And they love doing that. But to ask someone to come in and help out with new people moving in, they're very happy to do that. But certainly there's the option for personal training.
So if we learn anything from today's show, we take away the importance of having that discussion with a senior loved one in our lives, starting that discussion. And Alison, you said Christmas this time of year is perfect timing.
Yes, it is. It's the right time to start that discussion. And hopefully before, as we said, you're at a crisis point or there's been a fall in the home or something tragic has happened. Start that conversation now. Get all the benefits out of this type of lifestyle that are available.
And some tips on finding the appropriate place when it comes to nutrition and exercise. Some questions that we can ask, Rob?
Again, you can ask, you can say, what in terms of how is mom going to eat here? How can I rest assured that she's going to eat well here? Is the menu something that's going to make her healthier? Because the thing is, one thing to note is that as you grow older, you need less calories, but you need more nutrient-dense calories because of things that change as you age. You don't absorb certain nutrients as well, and so you need more of those particular nutrients. but you need less calories. So that's a bit of a challenge. And people generally do the opposite. They have a tendency to eat more empty calories as they age, especially if they don't have the support and they're living on their own and they don't know what to do or they're too tired to do it. So that kind of thing is something that retirement housing does a very good job at, is ensuring that it is nutrient dense. You say, is your menu nutrient dense? Does it have all the nutrients that mom or dad needs? You know, and they should understand that and explain it to you.
And also, we established that living in your own home in your later years isn't necessarily meaning that you're independent, that you can move into an independent living, active lifestyle community and be more independent.
Yes.
And create that sense of community. And I know, Alison, you wanted to share a great story about introducing 2 pilots, one an RAF
and one a Luftwaffe. So it was a wonderful reconciliation after a long period of time in one of our member communities on Vancouver Island. The community was just starting up, and they were doing some pre-marketing. And there was one of the first couples to sign up. He was RAF, and his wife was RAF Auxiliary. And at a Christmas party, actually, a new community member who was also deciding to move into the community presented, and he had flown for the Luftwaffe. So this was in the mid 2000s, like 2006, 2007. So a lot of time had passed, and so the person in charge of the marketing took the opportunity to introduce them to each other. It was kind of a risk, because who knows if people had healed, if enough time had passed. You know, there was some animosity between the two sides. And so the one gentleman's name was Ned, the other gentleman's name was Carl. And at this Christmas party, they were introduced. Well, you couldn't separate them.
Oh, I was going to say, did they embrace or did they bristle?
No, enough time had passed, and understanding of forgiveness is a beautiful thing, and we wear the poppies so that we don't forget, and we'll never forget. But time does heal wounds, and to see the two of them have this exchange and this amazing discourse, and what came out of that when the community opened was the RAF the group met in the pub of this community in Nanaimo. And this gentleman, Carl, was invited as a member of the Luftwaffe to be an honorary member of this RAF pilots group.
It's a wonderful story, and it
is.
also embraces the sense of community that you get from moving outside of your home.
It's one small example of a massive amount of community that occurs in our member communities.
Excellent. Thank you both for joining us today. Alison Howard from the board of the BC Seniors Living Association, and Rob Huppee, thanks for being our guest today. You've created a lot of insight for us about making that big step and talking to our parents and moving them into a seniors active lifestyle community. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. And of course, if you want any more information, please visit the website bcsla.ca. Thanks for joining us today.